It is 6 o'clock. I will call the February 27th, 2024 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. We do have a quorum with all members present. Tonight we have Pastor Natalie Drummond from the West End United Methodist Church to provide the invocation. If you would, please stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Father, we come to you tonight just about the business of our town, and Lord, hopefully about your business as well, Lord. We pray that you would be present with us here in this meeting, Lord, that you would give wisdom to our leaders, Lord, that you would give them good judgment and that you would give them ears to hear and hearts to hear, Lord. We want to be open not just to each other, Lord, but to your leading and your guidance. And we ask for that now in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is always citizens' time. I'll call you up and you will have 3 minutes. The first person I have signed up is Mr. Jim Ennis. Mr. Ennis?
All right. Yes, my name's Jim Ennis. I live over on the far side of Max Meadows, and I just want to make an announcement about some things we've all heard about. We've heard all about the southern border invasion of all these people coming across. We've heard about people from South America, Central America, Middle Eastern Muslims, even reports of military-aged Chinese men camped in camps, just Chinese camps down in Panama. And, it's unbelievable that there's very little resistance to it. You wonder where they're all going, We know that there's I've heard there's about 10,000 people per day coming across the border. And if you look at 2 years, that multiplies up to 6 million people. And I think it's greater than that. But that's not the point. The point is, where are they going? Where are they going? Well, we've heard they've been staying in big cities, but also in small towns, any place they can find a place where they can drop them off at various camps, wherever there might be. I was alarmed about a week or two ago. I read this article about this small town, Springerville in Arizona. I think it was a little bit smaller than Wytheville, but still, it's a small town. And they had this beautiful 5,500-seat Coliseum. Boy, what a great place. And when the residents found out that they were going to, turn that into a huge camp for thousands and thousands and thousands of immigrants, or in part of this invasion, the people turned out. They're furious, and they wanted to take action, the people in the community, to stop this. We don't want this in our little town. We don't want to double, the population of our town with immigrants and from this invasion going on. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is that we, if not most, all residents of our county don't want that stuff here. We don't want that to happen in Wythe County. And of course, we have this beautiful Apex Center, which would be a great place to park all these, illegal aliens. But no, it's not a great place for that. That's not what it's for. And so I'm asking that we be made aware, the citizens be made aware, because we would want to turn out also to say no to such an invasion. We oppose that kind of thing here in Wythe County. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis. That's the only person I had signed up for citizens' time, so I'll close citizens' time. Move on to the payment of our invoices. Each board member received in their board package a copy of the invoices that need to be paid. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions, discussion, or any invoice that any board member wants to pull out? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Our next item is the minutes of our previous meeting from February the 13th, 2024. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook and a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions, discussion, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on to old business, we have the Barrett Mill Water Project. Mr. Bear, I believe that is you.
Yes, sir. Our staff engineer, Will Lawrence, is going through Rural Development's letter of conditions, which are the various things that we, our engineers, our bond counsel must prepare in order to move towards closing on this project. This is one of the items. He confirmed with Ms. Collins that we had not previously adopted this resolution, so would request the board adopt this resolution that basically in order for us to obtain the financial assistance, that this is authorizing the chairperson, vice chairperson of the county administrator to execute the documents associated with this closing.
All right, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have a motion by Mr. Cook to adopt Resolution 2024-02.
You do?
Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that resolution? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Anything else under old business?
I do not have anything,
I
sir.
just got one thing. Do we have an estimate when we're gonna stick a backhoe in the ground for Barrett Mill?
A rough estimate would be if rural development approval, as part of all this paperwork going to them, the plans have gone to the health department for review, they go to rural development for review. If everything is clear on those, should be putting this out to bid, I want to say it's the April-May timeframe, so later this year, by the time it's awarded and goes through the final rural development paperwork, backhoe should be going in the ground.
Anything else under old business, Mr. Bear?
No, sir.
Mr. Hankins, do you have anything?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to reports. Treasurer, Ms. Gwen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Don't have a lot for tonight. It's kind of short and sweet because we're still trying to essentially get out of the tax season at this point in time. So in your, I guess the late portion of your board packet, you end up with the financial report for the treasurer's report. As you'll notice on page 2, the total account balance that we have on hand was set at the end of January was $70,965,849. Included in that balance is the general fund balance, which was $40,561,203. So January was another month of cash inflow. You'll see the same thing for February. Because we're still working tax payments, and you will see that for March as well, because I don't know that things are going to get wrapped up for us by the end of this week, and we still have a lot of escrow payments that we're trying to get worked through. So the next couple of months, you're still going to see those balances increasing depending upon our expenditure side of things, just because we are continuing to get payments entered into the system at this point in time. So it's kind of hard to compare the months compared to where we were last year, because this year's kind of another, or this fiscal year thus far is kind of another odd fiscal year, just like the last one was, just because tax-wise, which is our main revenue source, is kind of all off balance again. So hopefully this next fiscal year we can be a little bit more on track and figure out where we're at and where we're not at most of the time. So, but outside of that, that is all that I have. Of course, since I was here last, we've gotten moved to the new office, so we're still in boxes. We're working on getting furniture and just trying to figure out what's going on, what's not, and figure out our functionality, because we're in a different space. So we're just trying to get everything figured out right now. Folks are still coming to us looking for general district court, juvenile domestic relations, even though we have totally changed buildings. They're still coming to us looking for other locations. So one thing I would encourage is, as I have in the past, I would like to see the board consider something in the near future, like a mall directory type thing or something that maybe lists items of things that if you're looking to do this, this is the building you need or the office that you need. So we get a lot of people for general district court. We get a lot for circuit court. We even still have a lot of folks looking for the sheriff's office. They're still coming to us looking for the sheriff's office. And we're not even in the courthouse anymore. So I'm not sure what is the solution on that, but if we can get something, if, you know, somewhere around, I call it the compound, but somewhere around the campus of, you know, if this is what you're wanting to do, this is the location that you need. I think that would help folks out tremendously because they get frustrated when they've come to our office and we say, no, you've got to go back down to where you just came from and go to a different building. So we're kind of running folks up and down the hill now. So, but outside of that, that's all I have. If anybody has any questions or anything, I'll be glad to address those. I don't really have a lot tonight, just.
Does anybody have any
Survive.
questions for Ms. Gwen?
Mr. Chairman, I got just one question. Just, I know heard a lot of people talk, when they pay taxes before that we were holding on to the checks for a while. Has that gotten any better that we're turning the checks?
We're moving payments as quickly as we can possibly move them.
Okay.
We're not holding them deliberately. It's just we have to hold them because we're not getting the mail work. Literally, we are a month behind on mail at this point. We got hit so hard with mail around the end of November, early December with personal property. And, of course, I lost a staff member in about that time. Had another one to retire at the end of December, so that put me 2 people short. So it's been myself plus 2. Did bring in a part-time person. Happened to find somebody that was actually waiting in line to drop off her parents' tax payments. So that ended up being luck, that she was looking for something part-time. Brought her in. She's helping out on just the payment processing at this point. But then with the move and trying to get real estate bills out, and then we got hit hard again. So we're trying to get through the mail as quickly as we can, but our phone rings off the hook. And when I say rings off the hook, I mean off the hook. We cannot answer all of the phone calls. Even if we have people in front of us, we still can't answer the phone. We're on the phone is still ringing. Folks, of course, coming in, and now people are getting their income tax returns. So they're coming in to pay because this is normally the time frame that they would pay their taxes. But we're trying to get through mail as quickly as we can. We did get down to, I think we have two days of January mail received in January to get worked, and then we'll be into the February mail. But we're down to about now only 1 tray of mail. At one time we did have 4 to get worked. But we're making every effort that we can. It's not a quick process because mail payments are processed the same as if you're coming in and making a payment. So there's no difference on the processing there.
And you'd mentioned staffing it, you're still too short.
Working now, probably making calls tomorrow is my intentions to schedule interviews for a clerk position, so that'll get me another person there so that I can get them trained, because that position's not going to be as invasive on training as a bookkeeper will be. So I hope to get that one advertised as soon as I can get a person in place for this clerk's position, and then get somebody in for the bookkeeper side, because I had a person to leave, and I replaced that person. I had filled that position, but then the new person, in all honesty, with our pay, was able to take a job paying $25,000 more, still doing bookkeeping work. So we can't compete with that. And I had to wish her well. There was nothing I could do to try to get her to stay.
All right, thank you.
But we're working as much as we can. It's just not a quick process.
And I know you're swamped, but the one thing that I keep getting phone calls on is phone calls. So, I mean, if there's anything you can do to get phone calls answered, I'd appreciate it. 'Cause
I have asked and asked and asked for solutions to the phone system. I keep being told that the phone software people said that there's nothing that can be changed. So our phone, I literally say it lets 500 calls through, but it does. Even if when calls come in, when we answer the call on a phone, it switches that call to that particular number, that phone number that's tied to that phone. So then that opens up another call per se in the queue. But literally, my opinion is whether we have 5 calls coming through or 500, everybody's going to get the same ring through. So all of us, even if I'm fully staffed, all of us can be on the phone. The phone calls are still going to ring through. The argument I get on the other side is, well, you don't want people getting a busy signal. So what do? Do we hire a call center down in the Caribbean to answer our phone calls?
No.
But exactly. You know, I mean, I want to be able to talk to people, but we can't get to everybody. We can't. I mean, when our phones cut on at 8:30, they start ringing, and literally all 3 of us can end up on the phone right at 8:30 of the mornings, and it's still, you still hear the other phone that we have ringing to let us know that there's other calls coming in. It'll still be ringing. But I agree. I know it's a problem. I've asked for solutions. Like I said, I'm told that there's not a lot that can be done with the phone system to correct that. So I'm stuck.
Well, the solution I think she wants, though, is like the old system where, you know, once all 4 lines are busy, it rings busy, at least people know. The new systems don't do that. It still shows a line. Understandably, she does not want to set up voicemail because that's just that much more staff time to listen to the voicemail and then try to call the people back, or people trying to leave payments on it in the process. But, you know, the only thing we can do is it does have a message now that says, after so long, you have reached the treasurer's office, we cannot take your call at that time. But
And I'll add with the voicemail, the reason I don't have voicemail set up, we did start with voicemail with this phone system because I thought, okay, this is going to be great. But what happened is I would get a phone call, and I'll use Mr. Terry's example. Hey, this is Stacy. Call me. I want to pay my taxes. Okay, Stacy who? So we were finding, not only we get a call like that, it'd be like, hey, I need to pay my taxes. Call me back. Who do we have? There's a problem with my taxes. Call me back. Those were the types of messages that we were getting, and we would spend hours trying to call people back and figure out who was this person that said, hey, I want to pay my taxes. Call me back. And so you spend more time trying to make return phone calls. So I cut voicemail out because it was just, voicemail just wasn't working for us. And then other departments were transferring calls to like our individual lines, and then we kind of were noticing that calls were getting transferred to specific phones and not to our main number to where we could get them, because when we're in the middle of tax season and we're at the counter, we are not at our per se desk phones. We're at a totally different phone, so we're unable to answer calls coming to our direct line. But I cut voicemail out because it wasn't a viable solution with as many calls as we field. As Mr. Baer mentioned, our own old system did, after so many calls, you got a busy signal or something. I'd ask on this one, is there any way we can develop a queue? You know, you call places and, you know, your caller number 2, you know, estimated wait is 5 minutes or whatever, something like that. But what I'm told with this system is that's not even an option either. So
The voicemail, if your initial message is leave your name, number, and a brief description of your problem, and if they just say, hey, this is Stacy, call me back, just go past it, forget it. Don't waste your time on people that didn't follow the instructions.
yeah.
But
We get phone calls that literally, hey, I got a bill and it says I owe $50. Is that how much I owe? You know,
just
I mean,
skip by it. Just skip by it.
That's literally the phone calls we get. So, you know, we're trying to get everybody that we can. Of course, we do take payments over the phone, and that's part of wanting again, a non-Tyler-based online payment portal that I would like to be able to direct people that are making call-in payments to an IVR number, that they can use that to make their payment. They can look their bill up online. They can see how much they owe at any point in time. They can either call this number to pay over the phone, or they can pay online. But that's a whole nother discussion as well.
That's what I was going to ask, if this is just the normal phone call volume, or if this is a result of changing due dates for real estate, or if there's anything we can do on on our end to kind of help educate the citizens.
I think like so many things, it changed with COVID because people didn't want to get out or were afraid to get out, so they were calling to make payments. And then we have those folks that physically they're unable to get out, so it's easier for them to call. We have folks, Mr. Burnett's area, down Barron Springs area, it's a long drive for them to come up here. We know the distance. So they said, well, it's easier for me to call, just make a payment over the phone, pay the fee, than it is for me to drive up there. But, with us now charging the fee, a lot of folks steered away from doing that, and in lieu started writing checks, mailing those in, or putting them in our payment box. But at the same time, a lot more places have started charging fees to use their cards, so people just don't pay attention to the fee. They just say, well, that's okay, I'll just pay it because this needs to get paid. But, you do have those folks that do want to talk to somebody, and I'm not against that. It's just, I feel like there's other avenues that we could take that would help alleviate a lot of that, the phone calls, alleviate the mail processing, a lot of those. But again, I do not want a Tyler product for obvious reasons.
Does anybody else have anything for Ms. Gwen?
Do not.
Mr. Barrett, I had an appointment with Ms. Gwen with my day job last week. Have we made any improvements with the thermostat in that building? It was miserably, and the sheriff would certainly welcome any heat, but 77, 78 degrees. Number one, it's wasteful. Number two, I don't know if there's a blender that's messed up, but it was miserably hot.
Yeah, they are still trying to balance that out, and not that it's right or wrong or indifferent. That when we opened the old part of the new building in 2012, it was about a year-long process of getting everything balanced out there to do it. But I'll check again with Ethan and K&A and see where they are on that. But it's too warm in some of the offices.
And we were in the coolest office that we have in the new office.
And if anybody's
The coolest
looking for
room.
Sheriff Foster and you can't find him, he may be in Lori's office. He'd appreciate the heat.
I actually did welcome Mr. Vault to the sweat box when he came that day, but the air.
But when I went downstairs, I froze.
Because by the time you left, I think it's 12:30 or so before you left, about 1 o'clock, the air conditioning starts cutting on, and so about 3, 4 o'clock, it'll be down to easily 65 degrees, and we're already cutting heaters on. But it stayed cool all day today. It was 66 when I come in this morning.
And Lori,
I bought a thermometer because I wanted to keep up with this. We got up to 86 one day in there. I thought we were gonna die.
And Lori, before you go, if anybody calls and their name's Brian and leaves a credit card number, that's me.
It's you.
Just go ahead and I want to pay all of it once.
I'll remember that.
All right, thank you.
We'll pick up
ma'am.
anybody with the name of Brian. That way we can make sure
There
we
you
cover yours.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
And we've got the commissioner, Mr. Linkus. I know he couldn't make it tonight. Stuart Pratt from Murray Treat passed away, and he was going to the service. But I think he reached out, Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir. I'll make it short and brief. He just wanted to let everyone know that things are headed in the correct direction in his office, and he and his staff are excited about the upcoming. They got some training coming up with Tyler and Vision, which should improve services much more. So that was all he had, but he apologizes for not being here.
All right. Sheriff Foster, you have anything? All right, we'll move on to new business. We've got the consent calendar that's been presented to us. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any discussions on the consent calendar?
Mr. Vault, if I might, on your Barrett Mill question, I did look under Don's report. Right now, they are planning on to get permission from RD to request the permission to bid on June 15th. Open bids on July 15th, and the estimated construction time frame is 12 to 8 months.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is we've got our Wythe County Schools Substance Abuse Specialist, Miss Carrie Klein. Come on up.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Bear, just wanted to introduce you to this young lady, and I'll turn it over to her. This is Mrs. Carrie Klein. She was hired as our substance abuse prevention specialist and has been doing a wonderful job, and I will let her tell you about the wonderful job that she is doing.
I don't know about that. Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Klein. I have officially started. Right now, we are using our 9th grade health classes across the county as our guinea pigs. So I've been going into the classroom and administering prevention education to them. This is going to open up a lot more next year since this program opened up over halfway through the school year. We're just kind of getting our feet wet. But we're working on education in high school, middle school, and maybe some elementary schools. Focusing on health and PE classes. We're also going to work and build up to information and referrals. So if a kid comes to us with either a substance abuse issue themselves or they're worried about a parent, guardian, family member, we're able to point them in the right direction and get them the help they need. I've also been trained in Narcan administration and will become trained to train other staff as well in Narcan administration, which is the nose inhalation drug for fentanyl overdoses. We're going to I'm partnering with nurses, counselors, and all of that just to kind of work together as a team and make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to our kids and substance abuse. I'm already working with community. I'm going to with chamber meetings at the Revita Center and meeting with other people that also work in substance abuse and just kind of gaining personal knowledge and seeing how the community is responding. And then I'm also keeping up personal education. I've been attending some COP-led webinars where they're keeping up with drug trends with our youth. So staying on top of that is helping me educate our youth to the best of my ability. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me or about the program?
So when did you start?
I've already started.
No, I'm saying, when did you get hired and start?
November 20th was the hire date. and
When?
November 20th was the official hire date. She came in and started on 1st of January, really going in, had to complete 120 hours of training first. So, in credit to her, got all of this accomplished in a very short period of time. Has met with a number of individuals throughout the county school division to build those relationships quickly and get into the classrooms. And that's where we want her to have the largest impact is if there's problems, if there's issues, we want to know, we want to point people in the right direction. We want to get the help that they need. Worked with Sheriff Foster and his folks. Just one example, met with principals, nurses, guidance counselors. Everyone is aware of who Ms. Klein is and what she's there for. So we're very happy and very excited for her to be out in the buildings and facing this problem head on.
Was she already in classrooms or?
Have you found that, are there any other programs like this around here?
I actually recently talked with a lady. I found her on LinkedIn because I didn't know if there were any other. I basically just looked up this job description, and around Richmond, she's around Richmond, and she's doing a lot of the similar things that we're doing, referrals and things like that, working with students head on. They have a lot more ESL students, and they're at a higher risk up there. So she's doing a lot more with them. That's the only difference right now that I've seen. But I got a lot of good information from her. So.
Nothing anywhere close to this.
Well, and you know,
I think this will be statewide soon. I think that's what.
well, and I said it here a while back, you know, I've talked to other counties and they think it's a great idea, but they didn't think about it. And I just wondered, I figured in bigger cities there might be, but it seems like Southwest Virginia that I've seen, and that's the reason I asked, but And
it'll be no surprise to you that I say this. Ms. Klein worked with Ms. Delp and staff from the school system, and we put in our application for the opioid abatement authority money. And I'm gonna send y'all a link that shows some of the things, but there's a pot of money that's set aside for localities to get and draw down from, and then there's regional pots like that we've got for other things coming up. But they made that application, and last Friday, we got the preliminary notification that the program has been funded and awarded, so we are getting the grant funds, and we're going to try to make certain we keep all the reporting in line so we get gold standard, which gives us another 15%, I don't know if you remember the number or not, 15% funds on top of that, so that they like the program, so it's got funding, and that should be continued ongoing funding for it.
so is that a different pot of money than the pot of money that we got?
We've already gotten some opioid direct payments that have come in.
So
This is
this is
additional
separate
pot,
from the
this is
direct.
additional from that, which is good, because if that's the ongoing recurring funding that can fund this, then we can take some of the other money that we've got and put towards other opioid-related things that we have, or use as matching funds for regional projects. DSS is wanting to work on a project with Bland County, and so all of those things.
And it would, if other localities develop programs like this, it would be good to have a regional partnership, because in Southwest Virginia, drug trends seem to follow, they cross county line, but congratulations, you're the trendsetter, I guess, so. No pressure at all.
That was one of the things when we did meet with Cindy Newman, and she was very enthusiastic about this program, and it was something that she hadn't thought of, and she was very complimentary of the whole process. And the money that Mr. Berry was referring to, we actually had to write a letter in to confirm that this wasn't something that, because of the way the funding came in, there were time periods to make sure that this wasn't already in place, where we had hired her and this new money was coming in to make sure that we were supplementing rather than supplanting. So the whole process, having her on board and her ideas really helped make everything go and got us to where we are to really bring the funds up to where we needed to be.
And I'll be honest, with that pot of money out there, it wouldn't bother me a bit to see the program grow. I'd love to have one in every school, because everybody sitting up here, everybody in this room knows the drug problem, the opioid problem, not just in Wythe County, not just in Southwest Virginia, but, the Commonwealth as a whole. And I've said it before, I don't know of a better investment that we can make than in our children. So, hopefully, I'd love to see it flourish. So, again, no pressure.
I got one more question. The program that you're doing starts at middle school, it goes up?
Yeah, right now we're starting just with ninth grade, just with freshmen in high school. But next year, we're gonna broaden and focus a lot on middle school and early high school.
The way the schedules are set up right now, it's easiest to get into the the ninth grade health classes. And then, once the schedule for the middle school, at that point, we can get the schedule set up from the beginning to where we can go to all of the middle schools.
I was just curious as to how it mixed in with DARE, with they've got the DARE officers, don't you? Still have DARE? No?
No.
Good golly.
It's completely different as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
DARE is a trademark product, and as a certified DARE instructor, I'm not impressed with the changes the program's made in the past.
I just know when I was in the schools, they had DARE come in.
It's
Ms. Klein has the discretion to do what she needs to do immediately. If she sees something or if there's an issue, she could then get the help that she needs right there from any number of services.
That's a much better program than a trademark product
Agreed.
that you're not allowed to change at all. So, all right, does anybody else have anything?
No, just welcome. and
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is we've got a contract amendment for the Blue Line Solutions contract. Mr. Hankins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Blue Line Solutions, we've been in contract with them since 2022 to do our speed camera enforcement in school zones. They have requested a friendly amendment. They have some folks from outside of Virginia who would like to attach to our contract. They're impressed with the contract we were able to develop, and they'd like to attach to it and use it. But their attorneys have opined that they need some clear language in our agreement that says that other local governments can attach to the agreement. So we've got in your packet on the second page of that report a very brief contract amendment that just clarifies for folks outside of Virginia that as long as their state procurement laws and their local procurement laws allow it, that they can attach to our contract, that we don't object to that.
All right, does anybody have any questions on the proposed contract amendment?
That one free camera for us for each other state that joins in?
We talked about the amount of time that we are putting into answering questions for Blue Line for others. And, there were some jokes made about, what we're owed.
But this contract has been a good contract for Virginia and for other counties, and it's been good, so.
So it's
Glad to help
So
out.
it's your fault. You brought it on yourself.
We just do the work, Mr. Chairman.
So Scott did a good job getting this original contract lined out.
He did.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve contract amendment number 1 as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion? Mr. Farthing, I do have legal advice, and should I conflict out of this? When I scrolled down, I noticed the sheriff's signature on there. Doesn't really apply to the sheriff's office, but I'll.
Money comes back into just the
General
fund. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Uh-huh.
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is Adrian Park Phase 2, and I'm not sure, is that Mr. Williams or Mr. Hankins?
I'll get started. Mr. Williams can pitch in. In order to get the second phase of Ager Park completed, we need to be bidding, or we've already we've selected the vendor, but we need to tell them to go ahead and order the equipment for the second phase so we can get it installed in early summer by the end of the fiscal year. The project cost is $276,000, and the Wythe Land Foundation has agreed to fund up to half of that. They'll match our contributions. So $138,000 toward that project. We currently have nearly $37,000 in pledges and donations committed. So that means that we're short by about $88,000. We'd like to continue fundraising in the short term. Mr. Williams has some things that donors can show their contributions through. But we'd like to ask that you take $88,000 from fund balance to allow us to proceed with this project, and then we can offset that by any donations that come in between now and the time construction is finished.
So moved.
I second.
I thought you and Mr. Cook were going to fight over it, but, all right, I have a motion by Ms. Lawson and a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? All right, here and now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Mr. Hankins, I cannot remember, is that already budgeted funds that are in the budget, or do we need to amend and appropriate that amount?
We'll need to amend and appropriate.
The motion, and before Ms. Lawson took off on me.
Wasn't giving anything a
The motion that
chance
was
to happen.
included in our packet, and I believe that she made the motion for, was that we amend the fiscal year 2024 budget and appropriate the funds as detailed in the memo in our board package.
That's
Ms.
exactly what I meant.
Exactly what I said. Thank you.
Lawson. Well, I was getting ready to read it, and
I was just saving you time.
All right, next item on our agenda is the Wythe Airport Commission financial report. We've received a copy of their yearly audit. Do we need to take action, or is that information only?
You could take action just to accept the report. I will point out, one thing that I like seeing on page 120 of their report. Their fuel sales last year, they sold almost $1 million worth of fuel at a cost of almost $700,000. So they had a gross profit on sales of $295,000 on fuel sales to go back towards their operation. I did attend their meeting last Thursday night. Just if you remember last year when they came and made their budget presentations, we indicated we had a willingness to give them more funds, but asked for what I will call a little bit more transparent budget. They only showed funds coming from the locality. And so I went down and met with them and just gave some simplified versions of the budget and just asked them to, they asked us this year for when I say us, I mean the four supporting localities for $400,000 to go against their expenses of $400,000. But they didn't show any fuel sale revenue, they didn't show any grant revenue or anything like that. And I just asked them once again to revise that budget, include, I said, if you put $300,000 in fuel sales and $150,000-$160,000 coming from the localities like has the last couple of years, $460,000 budget, that's on line with this 400 and whatever it was, some thousand they spent the previous year. So, it was good information, and hopefully they'll come back to us with some numbers. But no concerns with the audit report. We just recommend a motion to accept.
All right, entertain a motion to accept the audit.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Anything else under new business?
Yes. Assistant County Administrator Report and County Administrator Report.
Well, that's under, I'm sorry. You're right.
No problem.
This update's still killing me.
I don't like it either.
All right, we'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've got several items to go over tonight. The first one under action items is a supplemental pay request from Rural Retreat Rescue Squad. They've requested an additional $5,000 in payroll assistance to cover current payroll, which is estimated at $15,000. The chair of the board of directors and the captain both indicated they've exhausted their savings and their investment accounts. While staff would prefer to recommend against this request, there is some value in keeping them open until Wythe County Emergency Services starts running calls, which we anticipate is April 1st. The squad has over $55,000 remaining in their current county budget because they've drawn down very little of what they're eligible to be repaid for. So staff request authorization to issue a check Wednesday for $5,000 to cover that current payroll. We request further authorization to issue additional checks in March up to $15,000 as long as the squad submits us the documentation on their payroll and their bank records.
Do we need to do that in two separate motions, or can we do it?
I don't think, Rich, you can do it as one.
Yeah. All right, entertain a motion to authorize the issuance of a $5,000 check on Wednesday and up to $15,000 to cover payroll in March.
I'll make that motion.
Have a
Not as
mo-
exciting as my last motion, but I'll make it.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion?
I do have one, Mr. Chairman, please, sir. Mr. Hank, did you verify their financials? Is everything legit? Did they draw the money daily?
That $15,000 would be contingent on them providing the additional records that we need to verify that.
What about for the 5,000?
It's a more immediate need, so
Okay.
I would make it contingent upon, or make the additional $15,000 contingent upon receiving those records.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So Mr. Hankins, the 5,000 is one check and then up to 15 on the other one, so a total of 20.
Yes, sir.
And the plans are just pulling it out of their current allotment.
Yes.
Not amending or appropriating anything. This is already budgeted funds that they've got.
Coming out of their budget.
Because I had a question Friday night, have we communicated to the town of when we plan on?
Yes, I had I emailed with Jason and Monica last week and let them know we intend to take over operation of the building on March 1st. That gives us a month to review the building, to make some changes, particularly in staff accommodations and in the building operations. There's not a huge cost attached to that, so we'd like to take it March 1st so we can make some changes in time for our staff to operate April 1st.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
The second action item, there's a state grant fund to supply generators to emergency shelters. It's a fairly large grant pot, and not a lot of counties or communities apply for the money. As I understand from Mr. Parnell and Ms. Delp, who have done the work applying for the grant, that there were only 2 localities that applied for money this year. And so we feel confident that we're going to be awarded some grant money, but we want to avoid a possible technicality. And so we're asking that the board authorize staff to amend the Emergency Operations Plan Function 6 sheltering to designate all county-owned fire and rescue agency buildings as emergency shelters. That would allow us the flexibility to open small shelters when it's more effective to do so. It would get us generators at some of these smaller fire stations that don't have them now. That's been in our capital improvement plan for several years, and we'd like to use state money to do that if possible.
And I remember when we had the conversation before when Mr. Parnell was talking about it, but Dr. Poole, with the new middle school, is it going to require an upgrade to the generator, or was that forethought?
Because it's considered 2 separate facilities. George Wythe is the actual sheltering facility, just like Roaring Tree High School and Fort Chiswell High School. So you don't have to have, the generator still runs, the 125,000 square feet in George Wythe. So they're considered separate buildings, so you don't have to designate Scott as a shelter because George Wythe is already the designated location.
But the generator that's in place right now, is it big enough to do what you need to do with the addition, or is it not needed?
It's not needed, but the generator wouldn't be large enough. When we renovated George Wythe, the old generator that we had there would run the entirety of the building because there was no HVAC involved. So when the HVAC was installed at George Wythe, that generator had to be upsized.
That's when we moved that one to Fort
To Fort
Chiswell.
Chiswell.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to designate all the county-owned fire and rescue agencies as emergency shelters.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved.
Just in terms of follow-ups, I'd like to highlight on the Regional Improvement Commission, I have been elected as the second vice chair of the commission, which means as long as you keep me on the commission, I'll be chair in a couple of years, which really just means that I get to run a few more meetings in a year. Our radio system update is getting ready to flip the switch on Friday. We'll be working with some of our radio contractors and with the sheriff's office to get the mobile radios installed in the sheriff's office vehicles. I believe we're already distributing portable radios to the sheriff's deputies to be able to get those charged and up and running on the first. Everything that I've heard so far in terms of testing shows pretty good results with the radio system, and looking forward to seeing it in operation. Fire and rescue agencies will move to full operation on the system on March 9th. Part of the reason for that is we've got to also change consoles in the 911 center as part of this process, and we can't do it all at once, so it takes a couple of weeks to fully bring everybody over. Mentioned emergency services and us starting to operate on April 1st. The state has licensed with county emergency services. All lead mines vehicles have been inspected and are ready.
March 1st.
I'm sorry?
March 1st.
I would like for it to be March 1st.
Well, you said March 1st earlier.
Well, he said, because he needs a month to do
March
the,
1st will be going.
It was March 1st to take over the building in Rural Creek,
Okay.
but that's in
Sorry.
preparation for us starting operation on April 1st. Sorry about that. All of the ambulances except for one are now marked as with county emergency services. There's one more lead mines truck to mark. That was complicated. There was a lead mines truck that was taken out of service by the state as part of the inspection process, some things that they weren't satisfied with. So that truck has now been brought back up to state standards and restored to service. We have reviewed applications for an emergency services director, and I'll tell you more about that later. We are still working through some regulatory issues. We have received a lot of applications. We've been pretty successful, more successful than I thought we'd be in getting applications for EMTs and paramedics. So we have a lot of people to sort through over the next couple of weeks, but I'm grateful that we have a lot of folks who have expressed interest. Some of those folks are now driving to the Roanoke Valley or the New River Valley to work for agencies there, and we'd like to do what we can to keep them here at home if we can. Last month we talked about the transfer agreements for the rescue squads. They have signed the transfer agreements, so we anticipate that anything that they have at the end of their time as independent agencies will come to the county. That's it for emergency services, unless anybody has any questions. On the Apex Center, the dehumidifier has been installed. Not yet fully satisfied with the operation, so we're working with the vendor to make sure it's right before we issue that final payment. Over in dispatch, we do have some applications coming in. We have a new HR director, and she's been pretty good at following through and pushing some of these applicants to come in for their testing. Dispatch has done a lot of aptitude testing for dispatchers over the last couple of weeks. They've got some more coming up this week, but we're hoping to see a really good crop of applicants that we have to train over the next few months. Also happy to report that our wireless emergency alerts, we have received our certificates from FEMA. We're waiting on digital certificates that are necessary for us to operate and do those wireless emergency alerts that are like the Amber alerts that you might get on your phone. We can do those once our digital certificates have been accepted by our software vendor, Everbridge, and we're looking forward to getting that done. I'm the only person in the county that's certified to do that right now, but we'll do training and we'll get some of our dispatch staff and some of our emergency services staff trained and certified through FEMA so that they can send out those alerts. We've been talking about EMD and Next Gen 911 for a while. EMD is in place. It is functional and operational. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close, and it's doing what it's intended to do, letting our dispatchers give those emergency medical directions when folks call in crisis. The Next Gen 911 is the one that will allow us to easily transfer between 911 centers. That has been a slow process. We've been pushed back several times, but we're now pretty deep into the process, and we're in far enough that our call handling vendor has been here. They've inspected our space. They know what they need to do when they come in to do the installation, and they're getting ready to schedule time. It'll probably be in late April or early May, and we expect to have Next Gen 911 up and running sometime by midsummer. So that'll be good for us. We're part of the Bland Twin Wythe group, and all three of us are going through this at the same time. It allowed us to get some more funds if we work together as a group. So that's largely paid for by the state for the first couple of years. As far as the animal control department goes, I do want to highlight our animal care coordinator. We are taking her full-time as of March the 1st. That's going to let us open the shelter longer, give us more hours when we're open, and hopefully facilitate more adoptions by doing that. If you've seen our videos on Facebook from the animal shelter, she takes really good care of the animals and is really good at promoting the animals and helping to move them out into an adoption or to rescue agencies, and that's been very good for our reputation. I understand we're getting calls from other agencies and even agencies in other states asking, what we're doing to get such a positive response from the public. And had some pictures from the VACO event on the back page of my report. Be glad to answer any questions that you've got.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins?
I do not.
All right, thank you, sir. Move on to County Administrator report, Mr. Bear.
Yeah, no action items, just a few informational items. The first is the school system received over $10 million of federal ESSER funds. And Dr. Haga has provided a letter to us that basically, to summarize it, we have to just put on file that there is a notice of federal interest. There's over $10 million in there, and we can't use that to be mortgaged against or get rid of it without going back to notify them. So it's a school system, it's not going anywhere, but it's just a matter of that going on record. So Mr. Cook may remember we had to do a similar thing at the New River Regional Water Authority where we were getting $3 million worth of EDA funds. Our bond documents that we got for the $4.8 million that we borrowed had to have it. There was a notice of federal interest in there as well. So it's just standard. It's just on file. Unless y'all have any questions about it, it'll just be included with the minutes and we have it documented. Next item is fencing concerns. I've emailed everyone on that. The chairman referenced possibly putting the committee. Don't know the time frame, what you all want to do with that, but just wanted to put it on the agenda for your all's discussion.
I think the committee, as soon as we can get it together, I know the calls continue to increase, and I can't speak for the sheriff and his staff if they're getting them, but I know a lot of people's still a little upset with the cattle that's not fenced in. So, I mean, if we can look at something like that, and Sheriff Foster, I don't want to put you on the spot, I don't know if you've had any additional calls other than what we talked about a week or so back.
I can't recall any, it's just been an ongoing problem. I don't know how many.
I think, well, the majority of those calls are going to animal control. I don't know if you've talked to Danny.
He had several in his report in the consent calendar.
I had one yesterday that I sent to Mr. Smith, but another one from Fort Chisholm District that came in to personally visit me yesterday that had some concerns with random cattle and abandoning cattle and stuff like that. So, staff will certainly assist, and I would recommend having, the sheriff involved with it, but I don't know if you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to appoint a committee or if volunteers want to come forward, how you want to do this.
Well, I know Mr. Smith volunteered.
I have.
I don't mind being on the committee because I see both sides of it. I'm fortunate that my land has fairly new fence on it, but growing up, there's a lot of 1 a.m. knocks on the door, hey, your cows are out in the road, so I've seen both sides of it. and I know a lot of people in the farming community, so I don't mind serving on it if somebody,
I'll volunteer.
you want to do it. And, Mr. Cook, do we need more than 3 or?
Don't want to have more than 3, that'll be good. And obviously, we need to work, I mean, we'll schedule meetings and get the agricultural community input and all that. I mean, this is something we've got to try.
Well, and, you know, it's kind of like I said in my email, you know, it's not so much punitive, and it's not gonna affect 99% of our farmers in Wythe County. It's that 1% that we get the phone calls about. And, you know, and I don't know if you passed on, my thoughts with Mr. Farthing, or even if that's a possibility, the suggestions I had, but, we can talk about that later, so, but, all right.
Next is just informational item, a joint meeting with the school board to tour George Wythe Middle School on April 11th, 2024. That worked with everyone. We will put that on to recess from the previous meeting and go to that.
I'm actually out of town.
Did we have a time?
4 or 4:30 is what we were talking about, just, and it wasn't, and now if y'all want to have a meeting, have agenda items and other things, the main thing was just to meet and then go over and tour the school, and that would be it, so.
And I know if you can't make it, or if you're out of town, like Mr. Smith, if you'll call Dr. Haga, he'll be more than welcome to schedule
Yeah, that's
anybody
fine. I
time.
mean, don't stop, cause I'm not gonna be here. I'll be.
We weren't.
I got a 6-day tour that week, so.
Well, we'll proceed with that. It's not.
One of the reasons we picked that date and time is that time gives us an opportunity for all the construction workers to finish their day, and we still have enough daylight left to where we can go through the building without, worried about somebody putting a cinder block on our head or anything.
I went on the original tour where I had to climb a ladder.
We will proceed with that, and the last item is just a reminder, March 18th, 19th, and 20th, be prepared to be in here for those 3 days for our budget presentations. As soon as we have the schedules finalized, we'll send them out to you. If, with your all's permission, if there are no major changes or anything with that, I do not see a need for some of the outside departments to come in the process. I'll ask for your guidance on the nonprofits. There's several that we've funded over the years. I'll use the Rural Retreat Depot, and I think it's $2,500. Do we want them to come in and the others to come in, or do you want to just have new ones that are requesting funding, and we can sort of send you something for a consent that the rest of them are okay, however you want to do those?
I don't see the need for all of them to come in, but that's just my
If you
opinion.
can send them to us ahead of time, I think we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll try to get those out and look at those. And ones like, I mean, you just met the new extension agents and everything. The extension agents, we pay X percent of the salaries for that, and we pay for the, I still call it the rose bush spray, but it's invasive species spray now or whatever. I mean, it's a set money. If there's no reason to put them on the schedule, that just saves more time during the day of doing things like that. If you all are okay with that, we will look at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've streamlined the process quite a bit. I don't have a problem with it, so.
Okay.
I don't, unless somebody wants to spend a week up here.
Commissioner of Accounts is the only one that needs to come in front of us. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless anybody has any questions on anything.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Barry? All right, right, County Attorney, Mr. Farthing, you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to report at this time. Thank you.
I will comment just, I did not include it on my report. Mr. Farthing and I are working on the Wythe Grayson Regional Library Agreement. I did go to the library meeting last week or whenever it was.
Monday.
And met and talked with them, told them what we were trying to do. They understand, they agree. Just want to let you know we are trying to get all that wording, and that's a little bit challenging on their budget as they put their budget in. How do they put it in? Because right now we still have just a 50-50 agreement, but we're trying to work with.
Are you talking about the regional agreement or the agreement with Fort Chiswell?
The agreement with Fort Chiswell?
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we made any progress on the redoing the agreement with Grayson?
Mr. Boyer is supposed to be working on that to present a draft back, and I have not got anything from him, and I'll follow up with him on that and see. But
All right, moving on to committee reports, we have the Budget Committee,
I think that's Mr. Hankins.
Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have a couple of items related to our ambulance billing as we get set to open up with County Emergency Services. The first is to set our ambulance billing rates. This is what we would send to Medicare, Medicaid, Anthem, any of the major insurance payers. You never recover all of it. You get the negotiated rate. But this is what we use as the basis for our rates, $500 for BLS, $800 for ALS level 1, $950 for ALS level 2, and then $14 per loaded mile. The Medicare and Medicaid rates typically drive that, and they're significantly lower than those amounts. But this is what is currently used by at least Lead Mines Rescue Squad, and it's what our medical biller recommends that we adopt. And we discussed this with the Budget Committee when we met a few weeks ago, but needed to finalize a couple of things before we brought it to you.
All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on the recommendation? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
The second piece of that is setting some policies that we would use in doing our billing. And there are three policies that are included in the second memo. One is for billing frequency. Our billing agency would bill patient insurances for emergency transports, for care and mileage. Patients would be billed up to 3 times for patient responsible costs, and that can be unmet deductibles, percentage pays, uninsured, and a few other exceptions. And this policy is consistent with Medicare and Medicaid requirements and practices. Does anybody have any questions about that policy? The second one is for write-offs. One of the issues that we've encountered with our rescue squads is in particular, Rural Retreat has had several times where they've let it build up to a point where it makes the financials look bad if you're not writing off that uncollectible debt. And so what we would ask is that the board authorize emergency services and finance staff to write off emergency medical service billing under $5,000 that's aged over 180 days. Staff would report to the board the amount and the number of accounts written off, but we can't disclose individual patient IDs or accounts. This is just to give us the opportunity to make sure the books are clean and that we're not carrying a lot of uncollectible debt. Any questions there?
I have one. When you're talking about the write-off being 5,000, is that, who's making sure that it was coded right? Because I mean, I personally have gotten a lot of bills where my insurance has refused to pay something because it wasn't properly coded, so.
We'll have staff, as currently designed, the captains, there are 2 captains on the EMS side, and they would be responsible for making sure that those bills are coded correctly. We may wind up having to add some billing staff, at least one billing person as we go forward, but as currently designed, the captains would ensure that that was billed correctly. there's no guarantee that they're ever gonna get it 100% right, but we'll certainly make the best effort.
Well, and I know it can take up to 6 months by the time you get everything, because I've gotten things from my insurance company that are 6 months old, and they're, you know, this wasn't built. I call, why I got to pay it? They say, well, it was billed improperly, so I call the doctor and we start the process again. So.
And if that were the case, it would not be uncollectible, so we wouldn't write it off until we had fully gone through the whole process. Once we have determined that the rest of the amount is uncollectible, that's, you know, that's when we would, you know, consider writing it off. If there are no more questions on that, the third policy is asking for your authorization that staff negotiate with the most utilized regional health insurers to be in-network. That gets faster pay when you're in-network. There's less negotiating back and forth over what you're due and what they're going to pay. It's pretty plain in the contract language, so we'd like to open up those negotiations.
All right, does anybody have any questions about the last recommendation? All right, hearing none come from committee, again, it doesn't need a second. Do a roll call vote to accept the billing policies that have came out of the budget committee. We'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 So approved.
Thank you.
And I believe that was all from budget committee. We'll move on to the water committee.
The Water Committee met on February 20, 2024 and recommends the following. Number one, procure an engineering firm to do a multi-community preliminary engineering report for the Peppers Ferry, Whispering Pines, and Route 52 area.
All right, coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote with Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
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 So approved.
Second item is to release judgment on 1514 Austinville Road account in exchange for MRPDC conveying land to Wythe County.
Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation?
What is it?
The Mount Rogers PDC, I believe it's an Indoor Plumbing Act money that they got, and there was a home on that property that was in such a bad state of disrepair. It came into ownership by Mount Rogers PDC through their IPR program. And they basically, are looking to get rid of the land, but we do have a lien against that land for the outstanding water bill that was on it. That's a judgment that we have against it. So basically, what they will do, they will just convey the land to us. We will see if it has any purpose that we can use it for. If it does, we will use it. If not, then we can look at selling that land to the adjoining owners or, others there that may want to come in and locate it and recoup some of our expenses from the water bill.
Is there any more questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else from the water committee? Mr. Burnett, was that it?
That was it. That's all.
All right. All right, move on to board time. Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd reached out. I'd like to see us take a step and adopt a resolution like I think it was either Dickinson County or Wythe County done, refuting the AEP rate increases. And here's why. I've gotten several calls over the past month and a half fussing about AEP rates. I was very clear we don't control any of that, which we don't. But we have a prime opportunity to help our citizens and their voices be heard, because we can get documentation back up to the State Corporation Commission and our representatives. And the one that really struck a chord with me, I had a business owner reach out to me and discuss how it's impacted his business. Since January the 1st, He's lost 24 paying clients at $75 a month. That's a $21,600 hit to a small individual business because of the AEP rate increase. I myself, and just speaking for myself, this time last year, my AEP bill was about $224. This month, it was $491 for the same use. I mean, it's insane. And so I think Mr. Baird and Ms. Collins and Mr. Hankins has a copy of the resolution attached in our board package, and I would like to see us consider adopting that, if that's possible, to send off. Because there's another rate increase on the table for this upcoming fall for AEP to fund a green energy project that's required by the government, where we were sold out for the green energy stuff by the previous government administration. And so there's another rate increase that's coming down the pike that's going to be pretty significant.
All right, I think we've all received a copy of Resolution 2024-03. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. To have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion or the resolution? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Didn't think so. So approved.
Thank you, sir, and that's all I have.
All right, Mr.
Mr.
Moore.
Chairman, just a minor point of order. Resolutions require a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Thank you, sir.
Pretty good. First time I've ever made that.
I had to ask Martha to confirm that, so.
Yeah, you're right. All right, we'll do a roll call vote then. We had a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 So approved. Any other corrections, Mr. Mr. Morgan?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Smith?
Only one item, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to remind everybody that the Fort Chisholm Library is having a fundraiser on March the 2nd. It starts at 8 a.m., goes to 5. Lunch will start at 11 a.m. It'll be spaghetti, salad, bread, and a dessert for $8. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Cook?
I feel like Mr. Smith today.
You're feeling good then.
Got a bunch of calls about the dog tags and, you know, the money that's collected for it and why we do it. And I'm assuming that we do that to support the dog shelter, the animal shelter. Is that where the money goes?
That's where the money goes, but part of it is verification, making sure that the animals have been vaccinated against rabies. It's one of the most important controls we have in making sure that, you know, dogs get their shots.
I haven't told them that. I'll have to remember that. I was telling us for the dog shelter. All right, the other thing is on officials at youth league ball games. I talked to you about, you know, having 3, which I think is overkill for a 7-year-old basketball game to have 3 officials and paying them. I don't think we should do that. In addition to that, as I go to some of these games, I've seen some parents that I think get totally out of hand with the officials and some of the kids. If it was a high school event, I'd throw them out and ban them for a year. But we need to have somebody there that can handle those people. They just, I mean, you can't sit there and yell and cuss at an official and then go sit back down in the bleachers. We're not sending the right message to kids. And I don't think if they're gonna act that way, they need to come.
Mr.
And
Cook,
trash pickup.
Mr. Cook, if you don't mind, could I ask a question? Well, on the games when you had 3 officials there, do you remember what color their whistles were?
I do not.
There's a reason why I ask that, and Kevin can explain it better than I can, but it may be that we were training officials. Some of the younger teenage officials will get trained with 2 more experienced officials during a game, so that may have been it, but I don't know
As
for
long as
sure.
we're not paying for 3, I don't care.
Well,
Have 6 there if we're not paying.
we're paying them to train, but, yeah, we need to train them in an environment where we can, you know, make sure that they're gonna be able to handle it.
Okay. And I know that we don't get prisoners anymore. So we need to do something. I don't know whether we need to hire one guy to go around and pick all the trash up and spend his whole life picking trash or what. But the trash from the city limits out to the dump are terrible. And out 52, it's not a whole lot better. And it's just unacceptable. And if we can't get prisoners, we need to figure out something else.
Does,
Do we still have that volunteer?
That's what he's talking about.
he's talking about the adopt
Where
a
you could get
highway.
the, yeah, there you go.
Is, since VDOT's so proud of the right of way they own, and they like to flex that muscle when it's convenient for them, is that not their responsibility to keep their right of way? Because we have a property maintenance ordinance.
Yeah.
So if they own the property, which they like to remind us occasionally that they do, if they don't keep it cleaned up, then I guess we charge the area administrator under our property maintenance ordinance for not keeping the trash picked up.
It's a great idea.
And we,
I have those occasionally. It's like a full moon, you know.
That was awesome.
and we haven't used this in a long time. And I'll go back and research this, and not that this is a route we want to take. We actually, the board adopted many years ago an ordinance requiring cleanup of the right-of-way in front of your property. It was aimed at primarily commercial businesses along the 7781 corridor that had a tremendous amount of trash, to have them clean up those areas.
But the majority of that trash is actually on VDOT.
VDOT right away, yeah.
So, I mean, just for me personally, the ordinance that you were talking about, some of my land comes out and joins
Yeah.
lots of gaps. I didn't put the trash in.
Yeah, that's the challenge with
So
something like that,
that's-
absolutely.
I don't mind cleaning it up
Yeah.
to make the county better, but I mean, it's county-wide. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And this is the time of the year when the grass is mashed flat and everything, it is the most visible, and it's the best time to pick it up as well.
Well, I don't know what the solution is, but we've got to come up with a solution. It's just, I mean, if I were a businessman wanting to move into this county with a business, I drove down that road, I'd say, heck no.
And-
You can't even keep the roads cleaned up.
And it's not just Wythe County, you know, every time I go to a meeting in Marion, I take number 11, and it's,
And Sheriff, I haven't seen any crew in the last couple months or so at all. So, yeah. We were getting a crew every once in a while from the state coming through and doing certain areas, but I've not seen them in a while or heard anything about them.
So there was a VDOT crew on, out in Progress Park picking up
Okay,
before last week,
all right.
but I think that may have been due to a conversation we had.
well, I think, I'm not sure if Stephen was talking about a VDOT crew or,
Prisoner.
Bland Prison, oh, is that what it was?
No, it was a VDOT.
Yeah, Bland Correctional Farm has a crew, or at one time they had several crews. We can try to call over there tomorrow and see,
See if we've got any.
and
I didn't know where that crew was out of. I just knew that.
well,
they did,
it's either, at one time it was Bland, but it may be Bland, Marion. I'm not sure if River North has one, but we can make some phone calls tomorrow and see.
I just think it needs to be cleaned up. That's all I have.
All right, Ms. Lawson.
I hate that she left, but I wanted to show, Ms. Tomiak some love. So Dr. Poole, if you want to pass it along to her for me, I really appreciate her coming to so many of our meetings. And she's, for the ones that do not know, she's new to the school board, and I know it's really hard when you're on a board and you try to go to other board meetings and committees and so much, so I really appreciate her doing that. And I don't expect everyone to do it, it's nice to see her, so if you pass that along to her, that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Burnett.
I have a couple items. Mr. Bear, I sent you an email about Mr. Brian Mabry and the solar farm trucks tearing his fence down. And we talked about that before, and the solar
Fixed
farm
it.
sent a lady out, I think, Jan something, I ain't sure. And they rode around with me, her and Mr. Mabry. And then after that, he put the fence back up, fence got tore back down. And then he's getting word that it's the trucker's responsibilities and they're through a broker, a third-party broker system, and it ain't the solar farm's fault. Really don't matter. It's his property that's getting destroyed. It's a single-lane dirt road, and they're trying to take road tractors down it. The point that he made to me, and it's a very logical point, is that they've been building a large-scale AEP substation there for years, and he's never had this problem because they come out of Fort Chisel down 52 and then make that left-hand turn onto the bridge. So that was a very difficult conversation we had. So he is irate.
I will, and Mr. Kinser has got that information and shared it with the company down there. And Sheriff, I'll send you that as well. I don't know if there's, VDOT's aware of it, it's GPS routing, it's doing it. I don't know if they can even, if they can put the signs up that says GPS routing not advised through there, but that doesn't mean that the truck driver is going to pay attention to it in the process. So, the solar farm people want to be good neighbors, and unfortunately, they've got contracted truck drivers that are coming in that are beating up their fence like they used to beat up the guardrail at Progress Park and things like that. So, I don't know if, it is a trucker's responsibility, but the solar farm needs to keep doing all they can to try to make certain they're routing down 52 and not coming in that way.
Yes, because like I said, that was not a pleasant conversation me and him had. So, if we can, anything that we can do to help, anybody that can reach out to him to let him know that because they did put up signs, 2 before signs, they put up, so the solar farm did make an attempt. It's just, I get shipments delivered to my plant, and I have detailed instructions, and it's followed. AEP's done it for years with no issues. So, I think it's a very, the company could just send out orders, say, look, this is how you gotta do it, and make it happen. But another, Mr. Barrett, is I will be sending you an email regarding some roads, because I know the VDOT road recommendation, and I'm just looking for some information about historical roads that's in the past.
Okay.
I'll send that to you in email. And then just yesterday, I had some people reach out concerned about the trash centers. I know we've talked about it, but out of county trash is coming into our recycling centers at a large rate. I know in the lead mines district, it's all 3 of the recycling centers that I have. And they're wanting to know how we can stem and stop it. However, and I know that's conversations we've had, and that is a interesting conversation because, we used to have tags on the vehicles, and then now we don't, but then there's a reason we did that, and so, and with everything getting more expensive, and just using Barron Springs, for example, I've got Pulaski 2 miles one way and Carroll County 4 miles the other. So they're both coming, and so.
It's, this weekend I actually noticed in the county that I was at that they had gone back to stickers, but they had a permanent decal, so you weren't updating them every year, but it could be a Wythe County permanent decal. Of course, even with that, we did have problems before that the adjoining county residents would just come over here and purchase a permanent decal, and for $20, they were still throwing trash away at our centers because they said, well, it wasn't something that was easily caught at the treasurer's office process, or they had a friend that said, oh, claim this as a car or a junk car they had, and they get a decal for it. But a decal is about the only way that we could do something to identify it, but I don't know that that's something that, the board wants to go back to in the process.
It's just, a conversation that if the board would like to have one.
Is that, at one time, Arlen or Danny One used to just randomly go and check
Check the sites.
at the trash center. Is that something that,
We can look into it and see what they could do to, what they can inquire about to see where the people are coming from.
Be under registration.
Yeah.
I mean, they can go run tags.
Mhm.
That's, so,
Yeah, we look and see.
I mean, that may be, a couple of days of that may curtail a lot of that. So,
And that's all I had, Chairman.
all right, I had an issue with, one of the trash centers and Mr. Bear took care of it, but, we need to keep an eye on those trash centers, Mr. Bear.
Yes, sir.
We haven't had that issue in a while, them getting full and them not pulling, but we don't wanna get back to where it's an inconvenience center. But that's all I've got. Next item on the agenda is a closed session under 2.23711 A8 consultation with legal counsel for the citing agreement and 2.23711 A1 personnel matters to discuss emergency services. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So,
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Terry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're now in closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're now back in open session on the record. Mr. Terry, if you'll read the certification.
Yes, sir. Whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Info Act. Whereas Section 2.23712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors that such a meeting was conducted in conformity with the Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening this closed meeting were heard, discussed, and are considered by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. And I'll make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Morgan. We'll do a roll call vote for Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
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 So approved. All right, I'll entertain a motion to authorize staff to set a public hearing for the citing agreement. Have a motion by Mr. Morgan. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any questions or discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote for Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 No.
All right, so approved. Is there anything else to come before the board, Mr. Bear?
I do not have anything, but Ms. Collins can give us a score update.
Bad news for all schools.
All right, Mr. Hankins, you have anything? Mr. Farthing?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Collins, you have any good news? I do not. All right, hearing none, we'll be adjourned.
All right, now